Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you notice that something is new with the lighting or the setup here, it's because I finally got a ring light. I want to say thank you so much to my aunt who got me a ring light. So crazy, but I'm so grateful because it came with a stand, which is exactly everything that I've needed, because for the last few videos, I've been making them by just putting my device on top of a picture frame and balancing that on a desk chair, which I've, turned into turned to face me and in this direction. And it's been super complicated, working with that setup. And so I'm really excited to have this new one right now and to have elevated to a new level of professionalism. And we're going to christen this thing with a Valentine's Day reading list video today. Some of these books have already come out. Some of these books have yet to come out. But the exciting thing is that all of these books are cutesy, fun, and lighthearted, and I think perfect reads for the approaching holiday. It's not a holiday, but I like to think of it as a holiday of Valentine's Day, something that my dad likes to say, grocery stores made so that they can make money, but you know what, it's okay, because I will buy all of the chocolate and spend my money, so, because it's fun, it's cute, yeah. All right, let's get into it. I'm gonna start this video off with my new releases, because if you know me, I love my new releases, and the first book that I'm gonna mention is The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund-Broka. These two are a writing duo that have written a book that I loved. Like so many, that have written a lot of books together is how I was gonna end the sentence, but I was also gonna say they wrote a book that I absolutely loved. I think I read it last year, maybe 2020. Nope, definitely 2021. And that book was What's Not to Love. And it was a hate to love romance, and it was so well written. And they actually released their first adult fiction novel this past year in January. On January 4th, The Roughest Draft came out. And this book is all about Katrina and Nathan, who are these two these two authors that work together to co-write books. And they've written a best-selling series, and their books have toppled the bestseller lists. But on the heels of their success, they actually secretly ended their partnership on really bad terms for reasons unknown to the public. However, they do have one book that they have that's contracted, and they still have to complete it. And so the only way that they can do that is to go to this Florida town and hole up in the Florida town, is what is written in the synopsis. But they have to go to this Florida town where they wrote their last book together, and they have to kind of go through the reasons they've hated each other for the past 3 years while also trying to work through writing this last book together. And so they're navigating all of the complexities that come with this type of a situation. And so I've heard wonderful things about this book, and I love this author writing duo. I just loved What's Not to Love, and so I'm so excited to read this book pretty soon. Okay, and the next book that I want to talk about is Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This is also a new release book, and I absolutely adore Rachel Lynn Solomon. I've read a couple of her books now. I've read Today, Tonight, Tomorrow, which I loved. I gave it 5 stars. And I've also read The X Talk, which I also really liked last year as well. And so she's come out with her second adult fiction novel this year, and that is Weather Girl, like I just mentioned. And this book is all about Ari Abrams and Torrance Hale. Ari Abrams basically has always been fascinated by the weather, and she loves her job as a TV meteorologist. And her boss is this legendary weatherwoman in Seattle. But she's been really distracted by her relationship with her ex-husband, which is kind of turbulent, right? And he's the station's news director. And so then Ari is stuck in the situation where she's seeking more of a more mentorship from her boss. But she feels like her boss isn't able to give it to her because she's so distracted and caught up by her relationship with her ex-husband. And so then what Ari does is she teams up with her boss's ex-husband's assistant. And his name is Russell Barringer, who's a sports reporter. And so she teams up with him, and she's like, okay, let's parent trap our bosses, okay? And then that way we'll both be able to get to the mentorship that we're seeking and desiring. And so they plan this elaborate scheme, but then they start to realize that sparks fly between them as well. And so it's this really interesting book. The thing with Rachel Lynn Solomon, though, is that while her books are super light, like super fun, and have their lighthearted moments, they do also tackle some hard-hitting subjects as well. I believe in this book, both main characters, Ari and Russell, are Jewish. Additionally, Ari struggles with depression, and so that's explored in the book as well. And I've heard many wonderful things about how these topics are handled in the book, and I just think that it sounds all around like such an interesting read, and I absolutely love the cover. So if you're a fan of the grumpy and Little Miss Sunshine trope, keep listening because this book is for you. And this is a book that I actually read last year, and I got it from the publisher, so thank you to the publisher. And I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, but it absolutely blew me away, and I found myself smiling throughout the entire time while reading it because it was such a cute and fun read, though it did handle some hard-hitting topics. And so this one is Bruised by Tanya Boteju. It features it's a YA book which features a protagonist named Dea Widgesing. And basically, Dea's been struggling with the aftermath of her parents' death. They unfortunately died in a car crash. And ever since then, Dea has found comfort in getting involved in sort of like high impact activities such as skateboarding and trying to bruise herself as much as possible while competing, or not competing, but participating in these activities. And so when she's presented with the opportunity to join this roller derby team, she thinks to herself, okay, there's probably going to be a lot of opportunities to bruise myself. And so she agrees to participate. But in agreeing to participate, she becomes a part of a team for the first time and learns more about what it truly means to be strong. And along the way as well, she meets this really cute person and sparks fly and things happen. And it's a really cute story, I think, about growth, about grappling with tragedy, about the meaning of strength, but also about figuring out who you are and who you want to be. And so it's just such a lovely YA contemporary novel, and I had so much fun reading it. And yeah, check it out. Again, these books that I'm mentioning, they're not all explicitly romances per se. They're just books that I've loved. These are books that I'm mentioning that I've loved in the past, and I just feel like putting on my 2022 reading list and recommending to you. And so the one that I'm going to recommend now is Dominicana by Angie Cruz. And it's all about a 15-year-old girl named Ana Cancion who lives in the Dominican Republic in the countryside. And she never necessarily dreamed of moving to America the way that a lot of girls in her neighborhood did. But then Juan Ruiz, who is kind of a local businessman who is from America, or from the Dominican but lives in America, comes back to the Dominican, proposes and promises to take her to New York City. She is kind of coerced by her family to say yes, because it's an opportunity for her family and all of them to eventually immigrate to the United States. And so she shows up in America, and life isn't exactly how she thought it would be, or even how her family thought it would be, though they're not there with her yet. It's just kind of what they told her isn't how it is. So she's struggling with being a Dominican in America, struggling with this new relationship that she's kind of been coerced into, and leaving behind everything that she knows to become this new person, Ana Ruiz, right? And so then finally she hatches this plan to escape, and she's like, I'm gonna go back home to the Dominican. But at the bus terminal, she's stopped by Cesar, who is Juan's younger brother, and he convinces her to stay. And so the Dominican Republic there's a lot of political turmoil, unrest, business stuff that Juan has to go back and take care of. And so he leaves, leaving Cesar to take care of Ana. And suddenly she's kind of experiencing life in a new way with Cesar. And like when Juan has to eventually come back, has to make a decision. Is she going to choose her family? Is she going to choose this life? What is the path that she's going to forge for herself? And so it's kind of the story of this immigrant girl finding herself in America. And I really liked this book. It is a historical fiction novel. It takes place in the 1960s, by the way. So it was really interesting to read from that time period, and also to read about this person who is from the Dominican Republic. And so all of this was such an interesting read, and there's a very spicy storyline in here, which is why I put it on this list. This next book that I'm going to mention on here is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is a book that I've mentioned on this channel kind of in passing, but I've mentioned it a few times on my blog as well, but I've never fully talked about it. And so I'm going to do that for the first time here. And it's all about this girl named Liz Buxbaum, Liz Buxbaum, and you know, she is kind of grappling with her mother's death. Her mother died when she was pretty young, I think when she was about 7 or something like that. But now she's in her senior year of high school, and she is excited. You know, she's always been a romantic at heart. She loved watching kind of these rom-com movies with her mother, or watching these movies from the collection that her mother left behind. And so she's super excited when Michael, who was her childhood crush, moves back into town and is going to her high school. And so she's really excited to kind of get to know Michael, and she wants to get on his good side and all of these things. But doing that means that she's going to have to kind of interact with Wes Bennett, who is her next door neighbor and the world's biggest pest. He's always bothering her, parking his car in her parking spot, and all of these other problems. And so she hates Wes, but she really wants to talk to Michael. So she's like, okay, I guess I need to ask Wes to help me so that I can get Michael. And so while she does that, sparks start to fly between Wes and Liz. And so it's a pretty interesting story. It's all about Liz kind of grappling with this romantic fairy tale story that she's planned for herself in her head versus reality. And it's so interesting. And I think it's also her kind of growing up and not moving on, but like learning to accept her mother's death, you know, and let go of a certain baggage that she holds. And so it's so cute though. It combines all of these different tropes from various different rom-com movies. There's like a makeover scene that's She's All That-esque, and there's like a little 10 Things I Hate About You moment, and all of these different things. There's the serendipity, like music player scene, and I totally recommend that you read this book. If you're the cinematic romantic, this one's for you. Great, the last book that I'm gonna recommend, I'm gonna say it's for the country music fan, okay? Hear me out. Because this book is by an author who I just reach for whenever I'm looking for a pick-me-up book. I think her books they're YA contemporaries. Well, I don't know if she writes adult, but I love the books from her series, the 100 Oaks series. And so if you know that series, you know who I'm talking about, and that is Miranda Kenneally. Any Miranda Kenneally book I would put on this list each and every year. And for this year, I'm gonna pick Jesse's Girl, okay? And Jesse's Girl is all about this girl named Maya. And Maya Henry is a girl who's always loved music, right? She loves playing music, playing the guitar, etc. And unfortunately for her, things aren't going too hot right now. She's been dumped by her band and her boyfriend, and she's lost the opportunity to play the music that she craves, or so she thinks. But then on career mentoring day, she actually gets a chance to shadow the Jessie Scott, which is Nashville's teen idol. And so spending the day with Jessie is far from a dream come true though, because seeing all that he's accomplished is kind of just like a reminder to Maya of all that she's been going through. But sparks start to fly between them, and she also realizes more about who she wants to be and the music that she wants to create and how she wants to pursue her goals in life. And so it's such an interesting book. I loved that Maya had her own sort of music storyline, but I also loved the interactions that she had with Jessie, despite how different they are, right? And it was such a cute read, and the cover is adorable. So cute. So that was my Valentine's Day reading list for 2022. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you get to check at least one of these out maybe before the holiday, or if you read something different, let me know what it is in the comments. What book are you looking forward to reading or squeezing in before Valentine's Day? And if that's not your thing, just what are you wanting to read? What are you reading? All of that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.